Welcome everybody to the Get Geeked Network. Today we are talking Jon Wick 3. And first and foremost, before we even move on, I want to let you all know spoilers. Spoilers. So if you guys haven't seen the movie, click off, go watch it, and then come back and watch this. That's if you're a fan. Let's start it off with what I think about the movie. If you haven't seen the first two movies, you might not enjoy this as much. I've seen the first two movies, which is surprising because on the first one, I didn't even know about this movie. This movie came out of nowhere. Like, you barely even saw a trailer. I think I maybe even saw just one trailer, and that was just like scrolling through YouTube, and the trailer came on. I was like, "What is Keanu?" And this was coming off me seeing I forgot which one it was, but it was the one where he played a samurai, and I think it was like the Seventh Warrior or something like that, or Warrior 7. But it was off of that, and it was like a movie from like not here in the U.S. So I saw that, and this was like in the position of where he was doing a lot of like straight to DVD or straight to streaming or just like unknown movies and stuff. And then I saw this trailer, and it was like it was releasing here in the U.S. And then I was like, well, you know what? I'll give it a try. I had nothing else to watch. I mean, it's that period of time where there was nothing out in the theater, nothing really good to check out, and you're like, I kind of want to go see something. And I was like, you know what? I'll give this a try. Because the thing was too, the one where he played the samurai, I kind of liked it. Like it was a good movie. Even though there was like a lot of like cheesy stuff going on in there, but I'm the type of person who likes cheesy movies. I mean, I watched a lot. I mean a lot of cheesy horror movies back in the 80s, 90s, and stuff like that. So I was like, I'm cool with it. I'm gonna go watch it. And when I watched it, I was seriously surprised. I mean, it was like it hit me from out of left field. I was just like, oh my god, this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. Not to say that it had a lot of good story or anything like that. It was just it had a good enough story. Let's just say that it was a good enough story, and the action was just out of this world. It was stuff that I've never seen the U.S. do in an action film. Because I mean, coming up to this point, a lot of the action that was coming out of the U.S. was kind of like too choreographed. Like you could tell someone practiced it over and over and over. You never really saw like real fighting styles, kind of like real hand-to-hand combat and stuff like that. And Keanu and the team that was running the movie, they did this whole new like hand-to-hand plus weaponry type martial art stuff, and it was just like amazing to see. It was refreshing. It took me back to like The Raid. I don't know if you guys never seen the movie The Raid or The Raid 2. I'd suggest you go watch that. I mean, it's subtitles, so if you're not into subtitles, just watch it for the action, dude. The Raid is just awesome, man. Come on, just check it out. But yeah, so and then I saw part two. Part two was a step down a little bit because I felt like they went too much into the storyline, and it just kind of like was kind of too confusing a little bit, but still the action was still there, and the story was small enough to where it didn't bother me too much, even though it brought it down a step, you know. So like whereas Jon Wick 1 was like a 10 out of 10 for me, Jon Wick 2 was an 8 out of 10. And so when you come into Jon Wick 3, you're expecting kind of the same thing. I mean, I was even thinking like, you know what, because it is the third one, I might even end up giving this a 7 out of 10. But I feel like it was good. It was good enough, but with the caveat of that, you had to see the last two to even appreciate what 3 did. And with what it did with the surprises and everything like that, I'm giving this movie, Jon Wick 3 Parabellum, I'm giving this movie a 9 out of 10. Because I mean, like they market it as a trilogy, but like I said, spoilers, it's gonna go on past the trilogy. Like the ending sets it up for another one, and it sets it up for another one, and it makes me like, ooh, I can't wait to see what's happening on the next one. Because like when you watch 3 and you see what happens to him, and you see where the story was going, you're just like, you know what, I can't wait for the fourth one because I want to see what he's gonna do. Because he is pissed off at the end of the movie, and he is going to go out on revenge against the High Table, and I want to see the High Table get it from Jon Wick. Gosh, I forgot what his nickname is. It was like the It's like Boogeyman, the Boogeyman, but in like Russian or something like that. It's weird to say. I'm not gonna even try to say it, but yeah, we'll just call him the Boogeyman. But I want to see what the Boogeyman does against the High Table. And if you guys don't know who the High Table is, the High Table is the people who run the Guild of Assassins, basically all the hotels, the Continentals. They own all the Continentals, and there's an agreement, and they kind of like run everything that's like underworld, basically. If you're an assassin, if you're a leader of like a big mafia and stuff like that, you basically run under the High Table. So let's go through the whole movie. I'm gonna try to keep this short because I just want to hit the points that was important to me. So it starts off, John Wick has been excommunicated from part 2. He killed someone in the Continental, and that's against the rules. So because he broke the rules, he is excommunicated. And in the beginning of the movie, they start his excommunication. It takes about like I want to say like an hour, 30 minutes or something like that. And everyone's like getting the text message from all the Continentals or the High Table, and they're like, and all the other assassins are getting ready to go after John Wick. But John Wick's just running around trying to set things up for himself so that he could kind of figure a way out of this, right? And it starts off that he sends his dog to the Continental to make sure it gets taken care of, because they kind of have him and the guys from the Continental in New York have kind of a weird relationship. They kind of respect each other, but kind of not. So he sends his dog over there, and he goes to the library where he needs to find a hidden book, and the book has stuff that relates to his past, because for some reason I think I'm guessing that he is used to be part of the Russian mob. And this is all the paraphernalia that allows him to go back to his beginnings and ask for a favor, basically, because I guess they kind of owe him a favor or something like that, or a last favor to be like, it's the last thing that they could do for him before. And then if they do that, then he gets out of, basically, kicked out of the whole mob. But and the action starts there, and let's just say this movie is action packed from beginning to end, like from start to finish. You have like tiny bits of breathing room, but other than that, you're basically just on the edge of your seat, gripping your chair. You can't even get up to go pee. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just action with small tiny rooms of like, okay, let's breathe a little bit, and then straight back into the action, which to me, I love. I don't know if it's everyone's cup of tea, but to me, I loved it. And so he goes there, and it starts right there. This gigantic dude comes out of nowhere, and he's like, "John, just give it up, like." And John's like, "Time hasn't even ended yet," and he's like, "I don't care, just give it up, because you're not gonna get away. You're excommunicated. Everyone's gonna be after you. Just come with me, or I'm gonna take you down anyways." And so they get into a brutal fight. There's books used. I mean, when you think about weaponry, a book is the last thing you can think of. And that's the cool thing about John Wick, is that they never just fight with just guns and fists. They always come up with something very creative to show the diversity of fighting, of an action flick, which I appreciate, because it gets boring when you just watch gunfight after gunfight after fist fight after fist fight. You want to see something more creative, and the John Wick franchise does that for you. I mean, come on. How do you take the person out with a book? You find out in this movie. That's how. Well, then, so yeah, he takes down that guy. He gets the stuff from the books, which is his ticket into the Russian mob house, which is a theater, basically, is where their whole operation runs, and they do their training and stuff. There's like weird ballerina girls doing their things, and weird wrestling boys wrestling around and stuff like that. Kind of strange, right? But it's basically where he comes from, I'm guessing, because he has the tattoos on his back to represent it, and they know who he is, and they're kind of reluctant because they know that if they help him, they're basically going against the excommunication, which is against the High Table. They didn't really want to do that, but because they had already promised him that they would do that, because there's like a bunch of rules that you kind of have to get into. But not really too deeply. You just need to. They kind of explain it for you in the movie, so don't even worry about that. But finds out, end up they helping him. They give him safe passageway to Casablanca, a weird place to bring up because it's so, I don't know, for some reason for me it's just weird to hear the word Casablanca. Considering it's a classic movie, but it is also a place. But like, really, you're gonna put a destination in an action movie against Casablanca's. But hey, I'll take it. It doesn't matter. I've already suspended my my disbelief and everything like that. So I'm in the story. We're going to Casablanca's. So he gets there, and he's looking for the Continental in Casablanca. Because if you guys don't know, the Continental is kind of located in every different place. In each different place, there's a Continental, and it's run by a different person. Now, the Continental in Casablanca is run by Holly Berry's character. Her name is Sophia. Now, let me talk about Holly Berry for a little bit. I was really hesitant about Holly Berry because the thing is, like, she's a 50-50 actor. Like, 50% of her movies she does really well in. 50% of her movies, like, oh my god, cringe city, right? I mean, come on, she's the person who did Catwoman. I mean, do I have to explain Catwoman? I hope not, but we'll let that go. But you know what? She kind of surprised me. She did okay. There was some parts in there during the fighting scene where I felt like she was more choreographed than Jon Wick was, and you could kind of see it, but there was just so much happening. I was able to let it go. I was fine with it. They also surprised me with how she used her dogs. Basically, it was like kind of a part of her artillery, basically. So, like, she lets her dogs loose, they attack, and while they're attacking, she'll blow someone's head off, so it worked. And I mean, it was pretty cool too. It goes back to also how creative the team with Jon Wick are. Like, it's, if you're gonna have dogs, use the dogs, not just guns and everything like that. So that was cool. Other than that, her acting, her performance was actually pretty good. I was satisfied with it, and I was cool with it. It was good. And not just that too, she had a short part, so I was afraid that she was gonna play a larger, kind of longer person in the movie, but luckily it was just a small part, so I didn't have to deal with that too much. I mean, like I said, I'm not a Holly Berry hater. She's just 50-50 for me on her acting, on her acting abilities. But yeah, so they get through that, and the thing was that he was there to ask her for a favor, and he has an amulet that has it was basically a marker that had her blood in it, saying that she owes him a favor for what he's done for her in the past. Basically, he helped get her daughter out of the situation that she was in, and they kind of hid her daughter away somewhere where she was safe, and no one knows where she is. The only person who knows where she is Jon Wick. Holly Berry does not want to know where she is because it's too much for her. She didn't want to go back to her past. She's just happy that her daughter is safe and living a life. But she's hesitant to help Jon Wick because she also knows, because she is working for the Continental, which is under the high table. She knows that if she does help Jon Wick, she is basically going against the high table. And she is hesitant to help him. She helps him anyways. The whole deal about it is that she had to help him get a meeting with one of the high table people to meet the person who is above the high table. Strange. Kind of a little bit too much, but hey, if you're already in there from the beginning, you're into it, you're following along, and you understand. They have their meeting, they have their fight. The guy from the high table tries to kill one of Holly Berry's dogs because he wanted it, but she didn't want to give it to him. But he didn't kill the dog because the dogs are wearing bulletproof vests. Dogs with bulletproof vests. I mean, how much more can I have to say? It's so much out there. It's so crazy. It's so cool. Like, okay, so let's move along. They have their gunfight. They find out where the guy above the high table is, or what he has to do, because he doesn't really figure out. He doesn't really find out where he is. He just finds out how to find him. If you kind of understand what I'm saying, because they don't really say it. But I mean, if you want to figure out even more, just watch the movie and you'll understand what I'm saying. Jon Wick ends up walking through the desert, falls and collapses, wakes up. He's there where the guy above the high table is. They have their meeting. They give Jon Wick an ultimatum. You either die because you've been excommunicated because you broke the rules, or you join back in with the high table, you work for the high table, you do everything that the high table tells you to do, and we'll let you live. And not just that, but you have to give him your ring finger. Gruesome scene, but an awesome scene. He ends up cutting off his ring finger, giving it to the guy, saying that he will work for the high table. And one of the missions that they have to do is that he has to go back and kill his friend from the Continental, the runner of the Continental in New York, which was where he broke the rules. And his name is Winston. I want to say it's Winston. Let me check. Yeah, it's Winston. But Winston was also had an ultimatum given to him. He had to give up the Continental, and this was done by a person called the adjudicate. Sorry, it was an ultimatum given by adjudicate, and the adjudicate is basically someone who is the messenger of the high table. This character, and it's played by a girl. I want to say her name is Asia something. I'll put her picture right here. You can see Asia. This character was kind of weird because she doesn't really do anything. She's just a messenger, but I guess I could see where it is because she is just a messenger. She's not really supposed to do anything. But she's there giving ultimatums to everybody or basically ultimatums to everyone who helped Jon Wick, and basically giving out punishment for everyone who's helped Jon Wick. She meets up with the Lord of the underworld, not underworld, but more of the bum world. So the king of the bums, basically, because he was the one who gave Jon Wick the gun where he had used to break the rules at the Continental, and then also she comes to the Russian mob area, and the lady who runs that area gives her an ultimatum also, and gives out her punishment for helping Jon Wick get his safe way to Casablanca's, and so on and so on. So everyone who helps Jon Wick has got their punishment, but the Bum King comes into play later because he gets 7 slashes for giving Jon Wick the gun, and not just that, but he's also supposed to step down as king of the bum world. But being the person that he is, he's not letting go of his seat just like that. And so we go to Jon Wick meeting up with Winston and saying, hey, I'm working with the high table. I have to kill you now. But Winston gives him back another choice. He's like, do you really want to sell your soul to the high table, or do you want to go out as a person and let's fight back? And with that dilemma, Jon Wick decides, okay, he's breaking the rules again. He's going to go against the high table. And so Winston doesn't really do anything. He just sits in his safe room and hides. But the check-in person that works at the Continental, I want to say his name is Charon. I want to say, I can't. It's kind of how it's spelled, Charon. But they do most of the work, and they get all the guns from the gun room, and they're killing off all the people that the high table has sent to put down their ruling, which are basically just a bunch of, guys in bulletproof everything. I mean, and when I say everything, I mean everything. It takes Jon Wick. Jon Wick has to put his gun underneath the helmet just to kill them. And if not that, then they went back to their artillery room and got shotguns that had armor-piercing bullets to kill them all. But before this even all happened, the adjudicator went and hired one of their highest assassin, Zero. And Zero, I'm going to put a picture of him right here also. If you guys don't know who this guy is, this guy has been in so many like old, it's sad to say, but they were B-rated action films, so I know who he is. I've seen him in a bunch of B-rated like action, kung fu, to you name it. I also believe he was also one of the announcers of Top Chef on the Food Network. I might be wrong, but if I'm right, I'm gonna put the picture of it right here. If not, then it's not gonna be there. But I'm pretty sure he was. The actor's name is Mark. I want to say Mark DeCasio. I might be wrong, but I think that's what it is. DeCasco. The Costco. I believe that's how you say it. But yeah, so he is Zero, and he is excited to get this contract, and the contract is basically to kill John Wick. And Zero is the type of person where he wants to fight the best of the best, and he knows that John Wick is the best of the best because many stories have been told about him. He's been through the grapevine. Everyone knows him as the boogeyman, the Baba Yaga. I think that's what. Yeah, the Baba Yaga. That's what he's called, but it's translated to the boogeyman. So he has his crew. Sorry, excuse me. He has his crew. He brings his crew along, and they're all super excited to go against John Wick. And so while John Wick and Charon are fighting in the Continental, fighting off the high table, they're there to pick the bones after that fight is done. And so when that fight is complete, then they come together and they end up doing battle. Now here's the crazy part, is that the henchmen of Zero play around with John Wick, which is kind of like, you're messing with fire if you're playing around with John Wick. But I guess it's kind of to show their respect for him. They didn't want to kill him that easily because he just went through destroying like a wave after wave of the high table's henchmen. So they give him a chance, and they go hand-to-hand combat, in which, of course, John Wick wins. And then he meets up with Zero, and they have their combat. Same thing happens. Zero plays around with him, which is a no. You don't play around with John Wick. And what do you know? John Wick beats him, but Zero is kind of reluctant to die. He's like stubborn to die. He's like, oh, we'll do this again. And while John Wick's walking away, and John Wick turns around and calmly tells him, no, we will not. And this is where Zero has like a sword through his stomach, and he's basically done for. He falls over, dead. He goes and meets up with Winston again, but what he doesn't know is that Winston already had a phone call with the adjudicator saying that he is gladly to go back and work with the high table. There's a bunch of double crossing here in this movie, people. And so, but Winston kind of has a plan, because the thing is to even become for him to even get back with the high table, his thing was that he had to kill John Wick. And so when John Wick goes back to meet up with Winston is there, the adjudicator is there, on top of the roof of the Continental. John Wick knows there's something up. Winston turns around, points the gun at John Wick, shoots him. But the thing is, John Wick has a bulletproof suit on. It does push him off the building. He falls down off the building all the way to the alleyway. But the thing is, later on, and so thus the adjudicator thinks that Winston has, lived up to what he's promised, and he's back under high table. He's now back the owner of the Continental that he owns. But as the adjudicator is leaving and she goes into the alleyway of where John Wick's body is supposed to be, he is not there anymore. And you see John Wick's dog running off somewhere, looking like he's kind of following somebody, right? Cut to the end of the movie. Well, the adjudicators tells Winston, find out what happened to the body, blah blah. She kind of has her assumption that something's fishy, and you kind of know yourself as a watcher that John Wick is not dead. But it cuts to let's cut to the end. You see the King of the Bums, played by Lawrence Fishburne, sitting there at his throne, which he's not really supposed to be on his throne anymore, but it's a different place. It's not the same place that he usually has his, operation running out of. It's kind of underground in the sewer type style place. And you see one of his henchmen pushing John Wick in on a what do you call it? A shopping cart, with his dog following. And they dump John Wick in front of him, and the Bum King basically asks John Wick if he's still alive. Raise your hand. He raises his hand. He's alive, and he asks John Wick, do you want revenge? I know you want revenge. And Jon Wick slowly gets up painfully and says, yes, I want revenge. And that's where the movie ends. Awesomeness. Got me excited. I can't wait to see the next one because I want to see what he does. Because you know it's going to be balls to the wall. Like, the high tables put him through hell. Like, they basically ran his life for most of the time he's been alive. And now it's his time to get rid of everybody that's just holding him down. And he has to do something super big. I mean, because you're talking about the high table. They had people like Zero under their hands. They have the Adjudicator. They have so many other assassins lined up and ready. You know the fourth one is going to be just like impossible. And whereas I had thought part 3 was going to be impossible. And, you know, it just doesn't, to me, it just doesn't disappoint. I was totally satisfied. But like I said, like, you'd be more satisfied watching it if you have seen the last two. So let's bring it down to an end. This is where we finish it up. I loved it. If you are into action flicks like this, if you're ever into kung fu movies or, you know, non-stop action, B-rated action movies like back in the 90s and stuff like that, this movie is like a grade above, and it's so good. And I love the franchise. I will go see the next one. I'm not even tired that they decided to do a fourth one. You know, a lot of people are saying like, oh, you know, this is the trilogy. It should end right here. Like, are they gonna be stretching it? Are people getting fatigued? I'm not even fatigued. I am set, ready for the next one. I can't wait. I kind of want to see it like right now. I want to see what he does. So, yeah, I give this movie a 9 out of 10. I loved it. I love the action. I even loved the people that I was scared of seeing in the movie. I still loved. They worked. They made them work well. You know, low story, but a good enough story with high action and just high octane. What else can I say? Go see it. And with that said, guys, I want to thank you for joining us here at the Get Geeked Network for our movie review. And we're going to have more movie reviews because I'm going to be doing the Detective Pikachu, and as well as some other ones coming up, because I know there's a few more new movies coming out. I know X-Men Dark Phoenix is coming out, and so wait around and check for that. And I want to thank everyone who's a subscriber here and everyone's new who's subscribed here. And with that said, much love, everybody, and I will see you on the next one.